Alright, what's up, everyone? It's Sam, aka Perugia. Playoffs just wrapped up like 2-ish hours ago, maybe even an hour. And we have now officially figured out all of our Swiss stage teams for stage one. As we can see in front of us, we got SR, Water Blue Otter, Swim Trek, FlyQuest Sad, 100 Thieves, Catface, Ace of Hearts, Ouroboros, Mask, Ghost, TV, Monarch X, YDZ, and Hyperspeed. So congrats to everyone that made it. Obviously, SR and Wadada got invited, but now we know the 16 teams that are going to be playing in Swiss. So this video, I'm just going to be going over playoffs. Just talk about some matches that I thought interesting. Talk about teams that I think either overperformed my expectations or teams that maybe underperformed what I expected. So yeah, let's get into it. I think the first one that I want to talk about is Ace of Hearts TV. I thought this was gonna be a 2-0 for Ace of Hearts. I thought they were just a better team overall. They struggled a lot on Lotus. It was a 10-2 half. They kind of started running it back a little bit, but still, I was very surprised by this. Like, I was surprised that they struggled as hard on Lotus. Bind and Haven were kind of 13-8s. I will say one thing I noticed was like they Ace of Hearts does. I feel like I see them get ecoed a lot. Maybe not super much, but I feel like on lower buy rounds, I noticed that they struggled. Notably, Ace of Hearts did play with a sub. They had Yuhan in, who's a sub over Ariel. But still, I was kind of surprised. I think one thing that did surprise me about TV was that they ran a Phoenix on Haven over Breach. Irene notably loves to play Breach. So I was pretty surprised by that. Inui also has gone full, like mostly Neon or Rays. And she's just shotgunning it up. Like I didn't really see any rifles. So yeah, they did end up changing their Haven comp. If we look at their lower match against Skyline Secret to qualify, they did end up switching back to the Breach, and I thought it looked way better. I actually thought their defense was really strong. It looked solid. Irene had a great game on Haven. Actually, she just had a great series overall. So yeah, TV qualifying through lowers after losing the Ace of Hearts. That's the next match I want to talk about is Hyperspeed versus Racing Against Time. Personally, I kind of had not Hyperspeed losing. I thought Racing Against Time was gonna win. I thought it was gonna be close no matter what happened. But I was wrong. Hyperspeed definitely, to me, they overperformed in this game. Luna One did end up summing in over CC or Always, their original player, their original smokes. But still, I was pretty surprised by this. I thought just in like a pure aim wise, I thought Racing Against Time had the upper hand. Also did like some of their comps. I thought I liked how they played the game. But yeah, Hyperspeed definitely proved me wrong in that one. Yes, a big one. I kind of talked about it last video. It was Monarch X XA. I touched on it a little bit. When I saw this, I thought this game against Mask would be way closer. And I was wrong. It was just 13-6, both maps. And we'll talk about AXA actually. They did end up losing to Hyperspeed and lowers. I feel very weird about AXA. They're not in Swiss, so we won't see them again until OQ3. But I I feel so hit or miss about them. Like I don't know how to feel. I still do think they struggle. I was a very big believer. I said this in my last video, and I've said this on like the Rage Bait podcast and Meta Shift. That like AXA struggles on defense, but actually they struggled a lot on attack against Haven or against Hyperspeed on Haven. They only got 3 rounds, and then they started coming back on defense, and then they had a better defense half against Hyperspeed on Bind, and then I'm gonna be honest, Haven was kind of Lotus was kind of just a steamroll. Part of me, I will say, I think part of it is I think Hyperspeed didn't understand why their defense was bad. Um, I think my biggest critique when it comes to AXA, if you watch them, is they on their defense they kind of just sit still. They don't like they'll take maybe like an early line with an op, and they'll try to post you up with an op, and then they'll use like their initiator util to reclear, but they don't group reclear. They let things sit very long, and their rotates are always, in my opinion, their rotates are very like weirdly timed because they're either super late or they're over rotating. So I think versus a team where when you're playing against a team that does that, like pushing people off of lines and then like breaking the info util like KJ turret or like tripping a vice wall, etc. Like that makes it very hard for AXA to like play the game. But Hyperspeed they don't end up coming out on top. They kind of just steamrolled Lotus. It wasn't really close at any point, in my opinion. Um, and yeah, I mean, we'll briefly touch on Mask. I mean, they. I don't want to discredit them, but they definitely did, at least to me, what was expected. They didn't drop a single map this whole OQ. Um, to me, it was kind of just what was expected. Especially with like the teams that they played, they just looked good. They looked good. They played good. Very convincing games all around. So I'm excited to see what they do in Swiss. We'll talk about Ouroboros and Baka Gods, I guess. Ouroboros ends up coming out T1 over Baka Gods. Lotus was a triple OT. Haven was kind of close. Split was just very dominant from Ouroboros, which doesn't surprise me. I think their split is actually very good. I think Split and Haven are like two of Ouroboros' better maps. I think this Lotus comp is not great. I think it should get changed, and I hope they do change it with the break that they have. But I think Haven and Split are definitely their better maps. I think Baka Gods did put up a fight on Haven at least, and then Split was kind of just it did not look very competitive. Which brings us to today, where Baka Gods and Monarch X played. Baka Gods ends up losing to Monarch X 13-10 and then 13-10. One thing I do want to say is Baka Gods at some point in the series were up. It was a 6-4 half that went 6-6, and on both series they won a pistol, and then they got ecoed right after, and that definitely doesn't help because realistically, like look at what happens here, right? Get ecoed, snowball, get ecoed, not as big of a snowball, but imagine all like this could have been a longer streak, right? So I think for them, definitely need to clean up their anti-ecos after pistol. I want to see more because I watched this game. I did co-stream this game today, and I didn't see like marshals. I think they're playing in very weird positions where they're allowing themselves to get punished or get crunched and just make you really uncomfortable. So yeah, I mean, I think Baka Gods did good. I did expect them to make Swiss. On the contrary, for Monarch X, I really don't know where I sit with them. They made Swiss, and like on paper, they are a good team, but I'm not like super impressed with like some of their decision making. I think they get bailed out a lot by mechanics, which it is a tactical FPS. So like obviously your mechanics do matter, but in terms of like macro stuff, there's not a whole lot that I see that's like crazy. I think they just sometimes in the scrappy moments, I do think Monarch X just kind of bails himself out with better mechanics. Ghost Gaming, they did what was expected, honestly. 2-0-2-0. First map versus one of Goons was close, but then they kind of rolled them on Haven. And then, obviously, we talked about the Chemical one. Very convincing. And then, actually, we'll talk about Chemical. Because I thought Chemical versus Skyline was going to be very close. Only Haven was close. Split was not close. I will say that, not to take anything away from Ida, their sub, but they were playing with sub over Cokes, and I think, in my opinion, Cokes is very valuable with like just their overall their voice in game. I think they're a good leader. But Ida plays the first series or the first map. They kind of get rolled on Split, going to Haven, and Ida's playing now over Rizora with Cokes back, and it was closer. I don't want to speak on it because I don't know everything in the team, right? I'm not there. I don't listen to their comms. I don't have access to their VODs. But there is tilters on this team, from what I've heard. I don't know. I'm sure it doesn't help, especially when they start chaining together rounds. Again, I don't want to assume anything. I don't know what happened. Don't know if we ever will. But yeah, it was just, I was surprised. I thought this was going to be either a 2-1. I had Chemical winning, I think, on the Ragebait podcast, but I thought it was going to be close. Let's talk about Evolution. YDZ made Swiss. Okay. Well, we'll touch on YDZ first, actually, just because they made Swiss. YDZ beats Wanted Goods on Lotus. This is a trend with YDZ where I feel like they have a good half and then they super duper struggle on the other half. It's very strange to me because the half feels like it changes a lot. Lotus was close and then Fracture was not very close at all. I think Fracture, I expect to see them lean into Fracture way more. I think Breach Tejo for this team works. I think one thing that works a lot with this team is just like everybody knows how to play Breach Tejo. Everybody has so much experience. So I think at a certain point it kind of becomes like routine, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I expected to lean into this map way more going into OQ. Yeah, we'll talk about Evolution now. I think most people, honestly, even myself included, had YDZ winning. I thought it was going to be 2-0. Not very competitive. That's not to shade Evolution. I just thought it was like, you're a team that like if you're Evolution, you're a team that has like 1 day of practice. You just made a roster change right before OQ. You've kind of already overperformed by even making making playoffs, in my opinion. So I kind of just thought this was gonna be a 2-0. Come out on bind, did a good comeback, 6-6. Yeah, I mean, they looked great on bind. I think this map if this team were to stay together, I would expect them to lean to bind more. They're very strong on this map. And then Lotus, this one was close. Evolutions is down 9-3, and this is kind of what I talked about with YDZ, where like they just have a half that they struggle a lot on, and then Evolution makes a huge comeback, rallies back into OT. OT was super exciting, and then this is kind of where I got let down. 13-4 on Pearl. I heard that Evolutions had never scrimmed this map, and just being blunt, like you could kind of tell, the macro was very off. I think everybody was kind of just trying to feel it out as they go. And when you're playing as a YDZ team that has played this map a good bit already this OQ, you know, kind of just is gonna happen, you know. But I want to give props to Evolutions. I think they definitely exceeded expectations. So happy to see that they did good. Any other games that surprised me? Not really. I think everything kind of went smoothly up here. Yeah, I guess I'll wrap up this video. In the next video, I'm gonna talk about the Swiss teams, as we said, covered at the start of it. I'm gonna do like a power ranking of all the Swiss teams, just like where I think they lie, like strongest to weakest. But I'm excited. I think it was very good. I think playoffs was fun. There's some games that delivered. There's some games that under-delivered. But overall, I'm excited for Swiss. I think it'll be fun. I think there's some potential good matches. I'm excited to see how the 4 teams from the upper side, at least, of OQ2, so Ace of Hearts, Ouroboros, Basque, and Ghost. I'm excited to see how they do against some of these other teams, because I think they actually did do pretty good. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.